This is a Fonzie Studio podcast. Welcome to Tales from the First Nations. I'm Jay Idle, and every week I'll share with you a tale and ancient wisdom of the native tribes of North America. I'll be joined by my cats, Dawa and Fonzie, who will undoubtedly make their presence known at some point, so I might as well just list them as co-hosts. We hope you'll enjoy the tales and wisdom, raise your vibration, and enrich your life with us every week. Welcome, friends. Welcome to the 32nd episode of Tales from the First Nations. I'm your host, Jay Idle. And I'm so happy. 32 episodes, still going strong. I'm feeling pretty good about life. So I appreciate everyone who has listened to this podcast, and especially those who have enjoyed it. And if you do, please give me a positive rating on your podcast app. It helps other people to find me if you follow and give good reviews. And if you don't like me, well then, you can lie. You're welcome to lie. Just get on there and say, yeah, this guy's great. You don't have to mean it, just say it. No, I'm kidding. I do hope you enjoy it. And if not, then I apologize for that. Feel free to reach out to me. talesfromthefirstnations@gmail.com. There's contact information in the podcast link below. But as I was putting together the last episode, it occurred to me that every week we listen to an owl, but we never talk about him. And I thought, wow, what a bad guy I am to impose on our friendship, to celebrate his singing, but never give him any credit for it, right? So today, I found a couple stories. I decided to spotlight him, and there are two good stories all about our winged friend. Now see, my grandmother, she loves owls, my mom's mother, and so I reached out to her because she has owls all over her house, and it never really occurred to me that maybe I should find out why. She has owl jewelry and clothing and pictures, and you name it, she has an owl form of it. So I thought I would reach out to her, send her an email. I said, hey, what is it about the owl that you love so much? She wrote back to me and she said, I've forgotten why I got into the owl. I guess I just think they're resourceful and smart. Well, that's a fair reason, I think. Those are good reasons to appreciate the owl. As we said, views of certain animals vary by tribe, but generally speaking, an owl represents seeing the truth, perseverance, silent wisdom and vision, and they are blessed with healing powers. They're very magical birds. The snowy owl has the added association with eliminating lies and deception, as well as discernment and wisdom. So I'm thinking maybe I need a snowy owl to travel with me on my shoulder so I can eliminate liars and deceivers in my life. But as I mentioned, I have two stories for us today, and one of them is, well, they don't look at owls in a favorable way, but we'll come to that later. In both, you'll find that the owl isn't always associated with positive qualities, as we've discussed. But the first one today is an Iroquois legend that should teach us all the importance of doing what we are told. Rawino, the everything maker, was busy creating all the animals. He was working on Rabbit, and Rabbit was saying, I want nice long legs, and long ears like a deer, and sharp fangs, and claws like a panther. I do them the way they want to be. I give them what they ask for, said Rawino. He was working on Rabbit's hind legs, making them long the way the rabbit had ordered. Owl, still unformed, was sitting on a tree nearby and waiting his turn, and he was saying, hoo, I want a nice long neck like a swan's, and beautiful red feathers like cardinals, and a nice long beak, and a nice crown of plumes. I want you to make me into the most beautiful, the fastest, the most wonderful of all the birds. Rawino said, Shh, be quiet. turn around and look in the other direction. Even better, close your eyes. Don't you know that no one is allowed to watch me work? Rawino was still making the rabbit's ears very long the way that the rabbit wanted. Owl refused to do what Rawino said. Nobody can forbid me to watch. Nobody can order me to close my eyes. I like watching you, and watch I will. Then Rawino became angry. He grabbed Owl, pulling him down from his branch, stuffing his head deep into his body, shaking him until his eyes grew big with fright, pulling at his ears until they were sticking up on both sides of his head. There, Rawino said, that'll teach you. Now you won't be able to crane your neck to watch things you shouldn't watch. Now you have big ears to listen when someone tells you what to do. Now you have big eyes, but not so big that you can watch me, because you'll be awake only at night and I work by day. And your feathers won't be red like cardinals, but gray like this. And Rawino rubbed Owl all over with mud as punishment for your disobedience. So Owl flew off pouting. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Then Rawino turned back to finish Rabbit, but Rabbit had been so terrified by Rawino's anger, even though it was not directed at him, that he ran off, half done. As a consequence, only Rabbit's hind legs are long, and he has to hop about instead of walking and running. Also, because he took fright then, Rabbit has remained afraid of almost everything, and he never got the claws and fangs he asked for in order to defend himself. Had he not run away, then Rabbit would have been an altogether different animal. As for Owl, he remained as Rawino had shaped him in anger, with big eyes, a short neck, and ears sticking up on the sides of his head. On top of everything, he has to sleep during the day and come out only at night. I'm honestly not sure who I feel more sorry for, the owl or the rabbit. That actually wasn't the only story, though, that I came across that presents the owl in a negative light, despite having it be associated with so many good things. In many tribes, the owl has a sinister meaning. In the Northwest, the owl calls out the names of men and women who will die soon. Among the Sioux, Hinhan, the owl guards the entrance to the Milky Way over which the souls of the dead must pass to reach the spirit land. And those who fail the owl's inspection because they do not have the proper tattoo on their wrists or elsewhere are thrown into the bottomless abyss. Among some nations, on the other hand, the owl is a wise and friendly spirit, an advisor and a warning giver. A Passamaquoddy tale depicts the owl as having love medicine and love magic, but he's a bit sinister. A man and his wife lived at the edge of their village near a stream. They had a beautiful daughter whom many men wanted to marry, but she was proud and no suitor pleased her. Her father, caught between his daughter's haughtiness and the rejected suitor's anger, hoped to appease both by promising to give his daughter to the man who could make the embers of his hearth fire blaze by spitting on it. Naturally, since spitting tends to put out a fire rather than kindle it, none of the young men succeeded. There lived in the village an old woman who many suspected of possessing evil powers, and their suspicions were well grounded. In reality, she was an owl in disguise, and her nephew, the great horned owl, ruled the whole tribe of these bad and scheming birds. Now, because he wanted the haughty girl for his wife, he assumed the shape of a good-looking young hunter and went to his aunt for help. "Here," she said, and gave him a magic potion to drink. "This will enable you to fulfill that old man's condition." The handsome young hunter went at once to the lodge where the girl lived. he found her father entertaining the tribal elders, among them the chief of the village. "Old man," said the owl in disguise, "is it true that you will give me your daughter if I can make your fire blaze up by spitting on these hot ashes?" "Certainly, young man," said her father. "If you can do that, I will indeed let you have her." The suitor spit on the glowing embers, which immediately blazed into a mighty flame, reaching the ceiling of the lodge, shooting up through the smoke hole, thrusting far into the sky. Since the girl could not refuse after her father made his promise in front of the elders and the chief, the hunter seized her by the hand and took her with him to his lodge. There her owl husband spread out soft bare robes for her and did all a young bridegroom should do for a beloved wife. When the girl woke after her first night as a married woman, she gazed at her sleeping husband and discovered something awful. His ears stuck up from his long, thick black hair, and his yellowish eyes, which he kept half open, even in sleep, had pupils that contracted in intervals into narrow slits. The girl sat for a long time, petrified with fear, because now she knew that the handsome young hunter was the terribly great horned owl himself. The spell was broken when the husband's aunt entered and nudged the girl. "What's the matter?" she asked. "Why are you sitting there staring at him like this?" Then the girl let out a piercing scream and fled. The whole village tried to console the young woman for the shocking trick that had been played upon her. The great horned owl left the neighborhood because now everyone knew who he really was. However, he still hoped to regain his beautiful wife by tricking her a second time. The owl chief waited a while for the villagers to forget their fear and suspicion. Then he changed himself once more into a young man, also good-looking, but very different in appearance from his former disguise. He killed a moose and an elk, dragged the meat to the village, and announced to the people, "I have come as a friend from another camp nearby. I belong to your people and speak the same language, and I want to live among you. I am a great hunter and a generous man. I am putting up a lodge, and I have much meat, so I invite everybody to a feast." While the villagers were feasting, the newcomer said, "Let's tell stories. Has anybody had something strange, remarkable, or funny happen to him?" When it was the proud girl's turn, she looked straight at the host and said, "My story must be told in a whisper. So in order to hear it, you must all put your hair back and uncover your ears." The guests smiled and did as she said, but the host did not. "My hearing is keen," he told her. "I can understand a whisper from a great distance. I don't need to uncover my ears." But everyone laughed and called, "Uncover them! Uncover them! Uncover them! Uncover them!" At this, the host grew very angry and shouted, "All right, here, look!" Throwing back his hair, he uncovered his ears that were standing up like horns. With cries of terror, the guests rushed out of the lodge. The great horned owl's aunt was as angry as he. "This young wife of yours is far too clever," she told him. "We must make something to outwit her." Having the power of a great sorceress, she created a magic flute that would lure any girl into the arms of the man who played it. "With this, nephew," she said, "she won't be able to stop herself from coming to you." The great horned owl, again disguised as a man, tried to carry out his aunt's scheme. But the haughty young woman and her parents were now so wary that they had put their lodge right in the center of the village and never strayed far. The weeks went by as he waited for his opportunity, and still the horned owl could not manage to come near his wife. At last one day the proud girl said to herself, "It's been so long that the great horned owl has surely forgotten about me. He has given up, while my fear of him is still imprisoning me. It's time for me to go out and walk in the woods the way I used to do. In a bad mood, the great horned owl was sitting high in a crotch of a high tree. I'm wasting my time, he thought. My wife is so afraid of me that she stays in the middle of the village. It's hopeless. I must stop thinking about her. Brooding, he saw someone coming through the woods with his sharp owl eyes. He recognized her, though. Though he could hardly believe it, his heart began to beat very fast. The proud girl came right to the foot of the big tree, unaware of her husband's presence. She sat down and said to herself, It's good to be out in the forest again without feeling afraid. How I enjoy this. Then she heard some sweet sounds that soon formed into a wonderful song. Magical, alluring, bewitching, she abandoned herself to the sound of the flute. I could never resist the player who makes this wonderful music, she thought. Then the great horned owl swooped softly down upon her, seizing her gently in his huge talons, carrying her off out of the village and off to the village of the owls. There they lived as man and wife, and the haughty girl eventually became used to being married to the great horned owl. Women have to get used to their husbands, no matter who they are. At the beginning of this episode, I thought that perhaps I'd want an owl to join me on my shoulder, right? And dispel the dishonesty, huh? But then I shared a story about how dishonest owls are. So I guess owls, like people, contain multitudes. Thank you for joining me on my journey and on this podcast. I wish you well and look forward to sharing another story with you next week. Go in peace, return in peace, and may you be well. Today's first story comes from a 19th century source. Not a lot of information for you there, I'm sorry. The second story is based on a legend reported in 1883 by Charles G. Leland, and both were found on a wonderful but now defunct website, pyramidmesa.com, which is fortunately being kept alive by web.archive.org. For more great stories and legends, check out the Jaguar Bird channel on YouTube. There's a lot of wonderful content there. And of course, you can join me here next week for another story on Tales from the First Nations. I'm Jay Idle, and I will talk to you next time. This beautiful song you hear at this very moment was provided by my dear friend Scott Brocklesby. And our podcast image was provided by Mark Lawton. We will see you next time. All right, that's it. How'd we do, Dawa? Awesome. Phones? Excellent. Then I'll share it.